With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you.
Okay, guys. Councilor Brunton, Councilor Black, you take your chair, we can start. Councilor Height. That applies to somebody else, I don't know who. Ready, Councilor Black? Are you ready? Well, we got 5, that's the majority once you sit. I am just waiting for you to sit in your chair. Okay, Madam Deputy Clerk, let us go to work.
Thank you. Through the chair, the next item on the agenda is the consent items. And as a reminder, if any member of committee wishes to discuss a consent item and/or ask questions upon it, please identify now, and we will move that item to the top of staff reports to be addressed first. If not, through the chair, can I have a mover and a seconder to receive the recommendations within the 2 staff reports?
Councilor Oliver, followed by Councilor Height. Whoop. Okay. Maybe we deal with him first.
No, what we'll do is he'll just identify what. Do you want me to read it out?
Yes. She's going to give you the information you need.
Sorry, through the chair. So if Councillor Oliver wishes to have one of the staff reports on the consent agenda moved under staff reports, all he would have to do is identify that, and we would move it to staff reports, but then we would need a mover and a seconder to receive the other item as recommended in the report, if that's fine.
What item would you like?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask that item 5B be moved as a staff report so we can have some discussion. Thank you.
Do we need a seconder?
No, it just has to.
Okay. We'll move it down. So that leaves us with consent item 5A. And we still, mover is Councilor Height, followed by Mayor Luke. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That motion is carried. Do we have any presentations? We have a deputation. Yes, please. She will wait until she tells you. Go ahead.
Through the chair, now we are at the deputation section of the agenda. And a reminder to our deputation, there is a strict 10-minute time limit, and Chair Wells will remind you when there is 1 minute remaining. Through the chair, I would like to invite Mr. Keith Ryder to the podium to speak to his deputation respecting community recreation and volleyball nets.
Sir, please.
Thank you, Council. I'm Keith Ryder. Hello to everyone. I'm a little bit nervous, first time doing this, so I'm just here to request some volleyball nets in one of the parks close to the downtown area. I think it would be good for recreation to help people, give them something to do, young adults and things like that. I think it would help attract people to the parks. I did start an indoor volleyball thing just recently, and it's been flourishing rather well. So I think an outdoor volleyball net would do well. And I don't know. I think it'd be pretty inexpensive thing to do. I don't think it would cost too much. So that's another thing. And I did pick out a couple parks. I don't know if they would work out or not. I said Wellington Park, but I guess that's a passive one. I'm not sure if it would work there. But on the far side away from the river would be nice if that one was chosen. The Linwood Park on 91 Norfolk Street. And the Waterworks Park on 266 Chapel would be decent. It has a nice big grass area that's pretty flat. I don't know. That's pretty much it. That's all I really got, Chair.
Well, thank you very much. We will have questions.
Yeah.
Any councilors, any questions to the deputation? Councilor Height, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the deputation, thank you for bringing this forward. I know in my area we've got a net up, and I think Mr. Cridland's department installed it, and it's used quite often. Volleyball is one of the biggest growing sports right now. So are you suggesting only one park, or one or two, or all of them, or?
Through the chair to Pike?
Height.
To Councillor Pike. Height, sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know. I think one for now. I don't know, just to see how it goes. I'm not suggesting going too many parks right off the start because I'm not sure how it's going to go. But having one or two in a park right now, just to see how it goes, would be all right with me, because I too was also in a town for a few months, and they have them in multiple parks there, and they all seem to do very well. So.
Have you looked at any fundraising to raise money for the nets?
No, I haven't.
No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Luke, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through your deputation, you nothing to be nervous with this bunch here, I'll tell you. So welcome. Did Mr. Ryder, through the chair, did you speak to me on the phone about this previously?
I think I did, through the chair, to Councillor Luke.
Yes.
I think I did quite a while ago, maybe
Couple
about
months ago.
a month or two ago.
Yeah.
I think I did mention it to you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just remembered that, and I wanted to just apologize for not coming over and welcoming you, introducing you, because I recognize the name. We did have a good chat, and I encouraged you to bring your idea forward. Mr. Chair, just a couple of questions.
Sure.
Keith, through the chair, first of all, as I said earlier with you, I think it's a great idea and a great initiative to try. Do you see yourself playing any type of a role in this? I'm not saying necessarily financially, but you have been involved in volleyball. I know I'm always concerned about vandalism if a net is left in an area where it's not well lit. Do you see yourself in any role, or is it you're looking that perhaps we can put up a net somewhere that is pretty central, and then people just come and use it in a pickup capacity? What's your thoughts? Thank you.
I would think that through the chair to Mr. Luke.
Yes.
I think that I would like to see it central and everybody be able to use it. I would like to be involved a little bit, but I think if it was up to me to set up the nets and take them down every night, I think that'd be a little excessive.
It's not your job. Thank you, but Mr. Chair, he wants to play, he doesn't want to be the maintenance guy. Thank you, Kevin.
Any further questions? Seeing none, we thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you very much for your time.
Do we have a motion to receive the Councillor Honenberg, followed by Councillor, what's your name? Oliver. All in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor Black.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question through
may
you to
certainly do
staff in regards to the volleyball nets?
Sure.
To Mr. Cridlin, Bill, do you think there's an opportunity to help this gentleman out and provide this service? And I guess, well, maybe looking at other areas as well if there's a need there?
Mr. Cridlin.
Through the chair to Councillor Black. Yes, I had talked to Mr. Ryder on Friday on the phone, and we met tonight. And it does play into community services plans a bit. You will see in the 2018 operating budget a small budget item for a master plan for the Simcoe Park system. Because what staff are thinking, right now a lot of the parks are a passive system, and we would like to promote these to get more people in them. So I talked to Mr. Ryder and told him that that may be one outcome. That the wheels are set in motion depending on the budget, but the master plan would help us where nets would best be suited. In the past, there was a volleyball net at the Davis Street Park, however, was not used a lot, and as Mr. Ryder said, is perhaps that's a baseball group there, and the volleyball players would be happier someplace else. So I think I kind of see the master plan, if we get that far in the spring, really pinning down where we could have active activities such as this in our park system.
Okay, well, I guess to Mr. Ryder, it sounds like some encouragement for his initiative that I guess based on our budget in January, we'll determine whether we do or don't. Is that correct?
Correct through the master plan, yes, and we're hoping that'll flush out the best place for these activities.
Thank you.
Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Cridlin. Bill, you know in Port Rowan, I think county did the work and they put the sand in, and then wasn't it a sponsor, Mr. Stark, and he paid for the net to have that put up?
Through the chair to Councillor, I believe there was a large part of that was funded through, I believe it was Mr. Stark or a group he was with, that's correct.
Did you pay for the sand, or was that part of the donation?
Through the chair, I'd have to check with staff, Councillor Height. I think it was a cost sharing. The county had some money invested in it, did some of the work, but a big portion of that one was through the individuals in Port Rowan.
Okay, I hope we get the install a little better, because it's too loose to pick the ball off the net when you're playing, but thank you.
Any further questions? Mayor Luke.
Well, through the chair, Councillor Height, the ball is supposed to go over the net, not into the net. I don't know why you consistently want to hit it into the net. Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Cridlin. Mr. Cridlin, you talked about a passive park, and I recognize that there's lots of passive park throughout the county, and in the old days, people would go and have a picnic, people would do this and that. People do sit and have a picnic table and sit along, and the odd time I see fishing down, I'm using Wellington as an example. Is there any bylaw or anything that prohibits a volleyball net for going up, let's say, in Wellington Park?
Through the chair to Mayor Luke, I don't believe there's any bylaw. I think what staff have to be cautious of is with an activity such as volleyball comes noise, that generation of noise later at night and sort of thing. So we'd like to have a bit of a bigger plan on where that best fits in our park system. So we're not putting a volleyball net in and then having people coming complaining that what used to be a quiet backyard park in their area is now very boisterous and lots of noise. So I think we need to do a little thought before we place one.
Okay, good point, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other, we will move along, and Councillor Oliver has asked to have consent item number 5 moved down, and I think we're going to deal with that now. Councillor Oliver, you are on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I don't know whether Lee's going to make a report or not, but we've got her report here that basically says status quo. If residents want ditches closed in, it can be done, but it has to be at their expense. I guess Council, I hope will remember, I brought this matter up back in the summertime. We had received correspondence from Bev Ritnia and Kevin Doyle. These are the property owners in question. And I had gone out to the site. I believe the mayor had also gone out to the site. It is a deep ditch. It is in Pine Grove. It is on the Pine Grove Road, which we know is a busy road heading up towards Delhi. I felt at the time, and still do, Mr. Chairman, that in this particular circumstance, and I would suggest it isn't the same as many, many other ditches where it's out in the rural area on rural roads, not in a hamlet, where there's a lot of traffic and, more importantly, a lot of pedestrian traffic and children in particular, that this one was appropriate for the county to take on the responsibility of enclosing that ditch as they had requested. I know the report says that the property adjacent to theirs was done several years ago and that it was done at the expense of the landowner. That's not my recollection. Shortly after I was elected, I think was when we were contacted about that one, and I recall that it was done, and I believe it was the county that paid for the cost of that, again, because it was a one-off and because it was a deep and dangerous ditch. And I would suggest this is the same thing. So, Mr. Chairman, it's my hope that council will direct, rather than the recommendation in the report, that we'll direct that that ditch be enclosed at the county's expense rather than at the property owner's expense. So I don't know whether Ms. Robinson will comment or how you wish to handle it, whether you want to deal with the recommendation and see whether or not it goes. It's up to you.
Thank you very much. Mayor Luke, you had your hand up, and then I'll go to Ms. Robinson.
I guess I don't have a question. I just had some comments, so probably my comments are out of order.
Okay, well, we'll have Ms. Robinson first, and then it'll be back to council.
Through the chairman to council, ultimately, this is a council decision, and council is willing to do that. Staff have been tasked with the responsibility for implementing the directions of council, and we will do so in this case. As it currently stands, council has not made a habit of filling in ditches where there isn't a municipal need to fill that in. I would like to comment on the fact that the ditch is not, in fact, dangerous. It complies with everything that it is required to do. Should council wish to do that, you're more than welcome to instruct staff, and we'll be happy to do that. But it is not dangerous in accordance with the highway traffic stuff in the OTM, so the Ontario Traffic Manual. It does meet all of the requirements to be left in the current condition as a municipal ditch.
Thank you very much. Mayor Luke, did you wish to speak now?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and just to shed a little light on this as well, maybe it's good timing or unfortunate timing, but about 2 years ago, my neighbor came to me and wanted to know if I was interested in having the ditch filled in. Because it's really nice to cut the lawn with the riding mower right up to the edge of the pavement and not have to use the push mower. My wife is getting really, really nervous with the mower in the ditch. But I said, yeah, I was interested. So we went and found out that the onus is on the property owner, even though the ditch is county property. And we did get a quote on it, decided that to county standards, which should be, couldn't afford it. Well, could, but keep pushing the mower for now. Then it was probably 2 days later, a resident in Pine Grove called me, went to see him, and I have to say, first of all, I agree, it is an extremely deep, quick drop there. But I did say to the resident, if we fill this one in, I would like mine filled in at the taxpayer's expense. And I'm sure there's many, many other people. So it comes down to a determination, I think, and I don't disagree that this is a wicked ditch. I wouldn't want to go in it, wouldn't want to cut it. But where do we draw the line as to who pays and who doesn't? That's the difficulty with this situation. Having said that, I got to agree, this is a wicked ditch. It's awful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Columbus, please.
Mr. Chairman, I know Pine Grove Road has a deep ditch there, but a few years ago, I had a call from the hamlet of Wyndham Center. Property owner wanted the same thing happen, and perhaps Mr. Cridlin, he was public works person at the time, perhaps he recalls it, it was on Baker Lane or Baker Street in Wyndham Center, and they wanted to fill it in. I don't know what the end result was, whether there was a precedent set there, or whether it even got filled in, or a culvert put in there. I would imagine this type of thing would cost a few $1,000s of taxpayers' money if the county were to do it.
Ms. Robinson?
Through the chairman to council, whenever we receive a request to have a ditch filled in, we go out and evaluate the ditch against the design standards to see if it actually complies in terms of a safety concern. If we are concerned that it does not meet the requirements from a safety point of view, we do undertake that work on behalf of the county. If not, we advise the property owners that they are permitted to, they can fill out an application and they can do that. If it does not pose a safety or an operational issue from county standards, we do not do it under that. Thus, my understanding is that's the same that was applied in that situation, that we have historically for many years only done them if it's an operational issue or if it is a safety concern when we go and evaluate it.
Councillor Brunton?
Just a question through you to Lee. Lee, I assume too, when you look at these to be filled in, that different ditches, if they require culverts or are different sizes possibly, depending on what it drains, et cetera, and also whether you need to still drain the road bed. Is that how you look at it?
Through the chairman to council, that's correct. We evaluate the size of the flow of the water, the drainage area associated with it, et cetera, and would size a culvert accordingly to what's required in that situation.
So the cost could vary considerably from ditch to ditch, eh? Okay.
It certainly does.
Thank you.
Okay, councillors, we have heard and debated. What do we wish to do? We have no motion one way or the other. Well, we need a motion for Councillor Height, please.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we do this and at the county expense to be funded from the roads operation budget.
We have a mover. Do we have a seconder? We have a motion on the floor, moved and seconded. And now, Councillor Height, you may speak to it.
Well, Mr. Chair, this is Pine Grove, the hamlet, so it's a town, and having a great big ditch there, if you have kids playing and things like that, and quite possibly in the future, we would have a sidewalk maybe, or if nothing else, it's an increase in service for that hamlet. They probably don't get leaf pickup and a whole bunch of other services anyway. They might as well have something that they don't have to canoe across maybe, all right? And it just, you know, we probably have a bunch of culverts that we buy by bulk and need some stuff to stick fill in and make it look decent anyway for them. So I just see it as being a service enhancement. And if other people need it, they can come too, right? So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Well, I better put my application in and get my ditch filled in too. Now, I agree with the comments of Mayor Luke. Where do you start? Where do you stop? This county is filthy with ditches, and already having trouble with our budgets and increases, let alone trying to fill in ditches. They want them filled in, let them do it themselves. If it is an operational problem or safety problem, I agree with staff that we'll look at it from that perspective and spend county money. But just to indiscriminately go around, look out. The press will probably have this on the front page, and we'll have reams and reams of applications coming at us tomorrow.
Thank you. We have no further speakers, but we have a motion on the floor, and the motion is that we fill in the ditch in question. All those in favor of the motion? I see two. Those opposed? The motion is lost. That brings us to the next item. We're going back to award a request for proposal. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to ask Ms. Trish Givens to provide the report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the recommended results of the request for proposal process for the development of affordable housing. The funding is composed of two components. The first is a social infrastructure fund in the amount of approximately $1.25 million. And the second component comes from the investment in affordable housing for about $800,000, for a total funding amount of just over $2 million. Norfolk County led the procurement process based on the evaluation of the submissions, the 5 submissions. Staff are recommending approval of the proposal as submitted by Capability Support Services for the development of 14 one-bedroom units located at 657 Lock Street West in Dunville. Thank you.
Questions? Councillor Columbus.
Not a question, Mr. Chairman, but I wanted to make a comment, if I could.
Yes, you may.
Yeah, I sit as a council member to the Haldeman Norfolk Housing Corporation. This entity is owned by 60% Norfolk County and 40% Haldeman County. And that organization did submit a proposal. And it appeared to me when I read the background information on this whole thing that the Haldeman County Council and probably the staff strongly supported a private developer, which is Capability Support Services, over a public type of developer, is the way I read it. And I guess when it came down to the point system, that's what staff is recommending, that Capability Support Services are the successful bidder for this provincial, it's provincial federal money, is it, Ms. Given?
Through the chair, yeah, it's a combination of
Yeah.
both.
Okay. And the other thing, I guess, with this proposal, it's a private developer. This capability group is already located on-site at Grandview. They operate Maple Grove Place, which is supplying Grandview. So I can fully appreciate and understand where Haldeman County and the staff were coming from when they recommended this.
Thank you very much. Councillor Black.
I'm ready to move the motion to adopt option 2 in the report.
We have a motion on the floor, seconded by the mayor. Any debate or questions? Councillor Height, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if the mover and seconder would be okay with a friendly amendment. I had the deputy clerk prepare one already. Maybe she could read it out loud.
Please.
Through the chair to Councillor Height's proposed amendment would be, and further that staff be directed to report to Haldeman County the opportunity for potential additional affordable housing opportunities.
Councillor Black, as the mover of the motion, you accepting that?
No,
Okay.
I think that's, should be a separate motion.
Okay. Councillor Height, would you like to make, just got word from the deputy clerk, do you wish to make a separate motion?
As soon as we're done with this one, Mr. Chair, I'm all over it.
Okay. So then we'll go back to deal with the original motion as put on the table. All in favor? That motion is carried. Now, Councillor Height, I'm back to you.
Mr. Chair, I would like to propose a motion.
Oh, please, we're all ears.
Stephanie's ESP is really working today. Steph, could you please read it out for us?
Sure, thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Height, this is the motion that I believe you would like, and that would be staff be directed to report to Haldeman County the opportunity for potential additional affordable housing opportunities.
Works for me.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Oliver, we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Black.
I'm going to speak against the motion, and the reason why is this involves, in this instance, not necessarily Norfolk County money, but it involves Haldeman County money. And if we set that precedent and say that, yes, we don't have a problem spending local levy dollars on housing, which is a provincial responsibility and within their jurisdiction, I think the next time around, we're going to have trouble saying, oh, no, we don't want to put in any levy dollars to housing because that's a provincial responsibility. So that's exactly what this is. And I mean, if Haldeman wants to do that, I suppose they can do it without this motion. Can they not? Why do they need this motion?
Good question.
Could I ask somebody? I don't know, staff,
staff
like,
respond?
why do they need this motion from
You
us?
can certainly ask staff to respond to that.
Through the chair, council can make that motion, but certainly any municipality has the ability to invest in affordable housing at
So
any
let-
time.
Okay, thanks. We don't need this motion. It's up to them.
Thank you. Councillor Height,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've read the report. I feel that it's a good deal, and I think the least we could do is let Haldeman make that decision themselves without sending it over there. As I understood it, they wouldn't be aware of the excellent deal that they could participate in. I don't see any harm in it, but.
thank you. Councillor Oliver, I had you down. Do you wish to?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just in support of the motion, I understand what Councillor Black is saying, but again, we know that Haldeman Council had supported, if you like, involving two potential developers of affordable housing. And so I think it is a good idea that through this motion, we'll at least be informing them that we had that discussion and that we're just making them aware that we're aware of this other opportunity, should they wish to pursue it. So I think it is, at the very least, a neutral motion and may in fact be an encouraging or an encouragement to them. So I'll certainly support it.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion that is on the floor? 1, 2, opposed? Motion is carried. All right. That brings us to staff report, complaints, and compliant initiatives. Is that correct? And that would be you, sir.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the report in front of you provides some history as well as an ask. So to backtrack a little bit, Council approved as part of its 2016 operational budget deliberations a temporary full-time manager of strategic human resources initiatives from 2015 to 2016. That position was extended on a couple of occasions, and it expires this year at the end of December. The ask that you see in this report articulates a continued need to do internal complaints investigation as a result of obligations under both our internal policy and Bill 168 obligations under the legislation. The need is there, and our view is that internal investigations are significantly more cost-effective than kicking those out externally. The new position we're asking for your approval for is called Complaints and Compliance. A component of the role will also involve in reviewing our primarily human resources policies, updating them, ensuring that they're up to date, and ensuring that there's compliance towards those policies. There is anticipated savings between the previous position and this new one, as it is at a lower salary band than the previous position, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Y. I want to talk about the funding for this position if it's approved for 2018. I did read the report carefully. I do know at the bottom of page 24 and 25, you've had a discussion with Green Shield. You're telling us here, I believe, through the chair, that if approved, this funding for 2018 will continue to come from a reserve. That's a question.
The report indicates that our hope is the unrestricted deposit account will have sufficient amount of money in that reserve to fund this position. And the report indicates that if that is not the case, then it will be through the levy, sort of failing that.
Please continue.
Well, I'm not clear if it's going to be funded from reserve or not. And I'd like to know if it's going to be funded for 2018. And I recognize it says unforeseen circumstances. Either the money is in the reserve to be used. We know what the amount is. It's in the report. So my question is it coming out of reserve?
I'll get you an answer, maybe.
Okay, thank you.
We have a consultation here. And would you or Mr. Johnson like to respond, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. unrestricted deposit account is, it is a reserve, but I don't want council to misunderstand. It's not a reserve under Norfolk County. It's a reserve that the Green Shield Company holds for us in order to mitigate any swings. And if they have an amount in there that's above what they need, then we have the option to transfer it over to Norfolk County. Over the last 3 years, we've transferred approximately $1.2 million to Norfolk County. The first year it was substantial. It was around $800,000, and then the 2 years after was about around the $200,000 mark. I don't have the figures in front of me. However, we have received amounts every year, and if we base 2018 on history, we should also receive an amount from the unrestricted deposit account, and I would project it would cover, if not all the cost of this position, it would cover most of the position, so the levy impact that we would sustain if we had to go to the levy would be minimal.
That's good to hear, Mr. Chair. And the other question, probably, if I'd asked it first, I wouldn't have to have asked this. That's my problem, but through you, perhaps, rather than Mr. Sluchenkov, to Mr. Johnson again, this position, if approved, would start in March, I believe, I read in the report, early spring. And I'm asking, and I know that at the end of your report, you say that it would go as a approved initiative to the budget session. So my question is, through the chair, we approve this tonight, subsequently put the rubber stamp on it next week, this would still be before us on January the 24th budget session.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if we were to approve, if council were to approve this tonight, this would be considered a council-approved initiative, and we do identify those at the January budget and communicate what council-approved initiatives happened throughout 2017 for the 2018 operating budget.
Okay, Councillor Button.
Well, I don't have a problem with this right now, but I would like to make an amendment to the motion there, if I may.
Sure.
And it's pretty simple. It's just that a detailed report be made to council at the end of the 12-month period. Very simple. And I'm looking for some details on, like, you know what we dealt with earlier, and the number of complaints and what they're for and the legal costs that go with each one. I'd like to know what that is, because I just have a feeling this is going to be right back on the table here in 12 months' time to do it again. So that's my amendment, friendly amendment. I don't think it's out of the line to ask for that.
Oh, okay. The clerk has just informed me that we are asking questions. We don't have a mover, we don't have a motion on the floor at the present time. So we can't have in addition to the...
I'll move the motion and I'll make that amendment. How's that?
Okay. Okay, so we have the motion as amended. Let's deal it that way. And do we have a seconder? And Councillor Sonnenberg has seconded that. Any discussion? Anybody wish to hear the motion as it has been amended? Seeing none, those in favor? That motion is carried. All right. Yes, we're going to do the next report, and then we're going to have a change in the agenda. No, you're on. Ms. Darlington? I'm sorry? Oh! He's doing this report?
So can I begin to speak to the next item?
That's just me. Yes, I just got word that it is you who's going to lead this charge.
Yes, well, I will just provide a very brief introduction, and then I'll leave it to the folks that know much more about this than I do. So in front of you have report EBS 1767, Property Management Services. Got very romantic there for a second. And so In as much as you have in front of you an extensive report prepared by Shirley Darlington, Lydia Harrison, and Tracy Borland about the property management services and the work that's being done through the area, we thought it would be prudent, in as much as we provide you the report and we're seeking your approval to move on a specific item in that report. We thought it would be great for you to hear from the experts who are doing the work on a day-to-day basis, and you can see the transformation that has occurred in that area of the business of Norfolk County since sort of inception in 2014 to where we are today. And without further ado, I'll defer to Shelley and Lydia.
Thank you very much through the chair, and thank you to Mr. Slivchenkov for that introduction. Tonight we're here to present a progress update on property management services. We're going to do a shared presentation, and we'll be as brief as possible but provide some good background information to council. So as background, the contract position was created in 2014. The original intent was to address the backlog of property files, sell surplus lands, and administer 4 corporate leases. Today, we've transitioned into very much a centralized property management services, providing very needed technical expertise to all of our departments and divisions. This slide outlines illustrates the property files to date. You will see that since 2014, there have been 682 new property matters, along with 123 open files that existed at the time of the original report and the position was put in place. Since this time, I'm very pleased to tell council that staff have completed a total of 628 files, along with 794 lien checks and 55 initial requests. We've been tracking initial requests since March of 2017, and essentially what that is it's an initial inquiry to property management to investigate some preliminary information. That preliminary information hasn't necessarily been an open file at this point, but does take a considerable amount of time, staff time, to do some research and some analysis and some follow-up. In 2017, that's the area we're going to focus on with our review today, we started with 117 open files, and throughout the year to date, on October 27th, we had 175 new files come in the door. So as at October 27th, we completed 134 of those files. So as you can see, substantial progress is being made addressing the backlog of files, but new files continue to arise on a regular basis. When we looked at the files and the statistics, you can see in the chart provided on page 3 of the report, or 29 of your agenda, there are 4 main file types that staff spend considerable time working on. Those include road and lane closures, property acquisitions, lease administration, and property sales. And I'm going to transfer this presentation over to Ms. Harrison, who will provide some details in those 4 areas.
Thank you, Shelley. To continue on, road and lane closures are the most frequent inquiry that I receive. You can see from the statistics that we have 53 open files, and generally we get about 10 to 20 files each year. It can take approximately 12 to 24 months from the start of the file to completion. Council will recall several recent examples of road closures where the complexity varies, involving initial title searching, consultation with property owners, establishing valuation, easement requirements, and complex reference planning and surveying. Recent files have included McCool Street in Waterford, McBain Avenue in Port Dover, the Miles Pager request in Waterford, the Wilson Pierce Street in Port Dover, and Sullivan Beach Avenue in Long Point. Property acquisitions. There is a variety of different situations that are requested from various departments and divisions, sometimes involving a land acquisition to facilitate reconstruction projects. Recent files include sidewalk redevelopment on Mill Street in Delhi, realignment of Hastings Drive, purchase of property at 204 Main Street, Delhi, to facilitate the redevelopment of the Delhi branch of the Norfolk County Public Library, purchase of the former Port Dover Public School and adjacent property for buffer zones at the Port Dover wastewater treatment facility. Lease administration. Lease administration is one of the largest expanding areas in the property management portfolio. At the start of the role, only 4 lease agreements were being administered. Today, 24 leases are being facilitated through the property management role. This includes new lease agreements, renewals and extensions, and monitoring of executed agreements. Recent files include County Medical Building in Port Dover, Robinson Administration Building, Simcoe, Hume Street in Simcoe, Port Dover Beach in Port Dover, and coming forward shortly will be Port Rowan Medical Center, Welsh Fairgrounds, and Delhi Soccer Fields. A significant amount of time is spent in lease negotiation and management. Property sales. Part of the role of the property management coordinator is to facilitate disposing of county lands and buildings declared surplus to municipal needs. The requirements vary and include a number of types of scenarios. Proceeds from property sales are transferred to the property management reserve. Examples of recent sales over the years are properties in Port Rowan, the former Port Dover Library at 413 Main Street, and the Habitat for Humanity at 95, Patterson Street in Simcoe, and the Delhi lot on Main Street in Delhi, which was vacant land, was transferred earlier this summer. Other areas of focus. Along with the main file types, there are a number of other areas of focus for the property management coordinator, including encroachment agreements, lien checks, review of land titles absolute applications, document registrations, pre-conference meetings, and initial requests and general inquiries. I'll return to Shelley for closing remarks.
Thank you. In closing, property management has grown substantially, as you see in the statistics and just the value of the work that is being done by this role. And certainly additional responsibilities have been added to address all areas of property matters for the corporation. The role provides technical support to assist departments and divisions, and it is a vital component to support the ongoing growth and success of Norfolk County. And with that, staff would be pleased to answer any questions from the detailed report.
Thank you very much. Questions, Council? Mayor Luke.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for this, and I know what we're being asked here is to take a temporary contract or temporary position. What's the proper term? I want to get the proper term. Temporary full-time position, I'm sorry. A temporary full-time position, thank you. We're being asked after 3 years roughly to make it a permanent. We can't go on forever, I guess, in a contract position. Either you've got a job or you don't, a need for the job. I want to talk about the fact that over 2015, 16, 17, it's laid out on page 32, over those 3 years, from the sale of property, $615,000 roughly has been, correct me if I get this wrong, please. So we're talking about $205,000 a year. I do not understand in the recommendation why some of that revenue doesn't pay for this position. They want to take an entire from the levy and dump the revenue into the reserves. No, we all have, I guess, a different opinion as to where money should come from and pay for who, but certainly the fact that this position, the work that it does, creates some direct revenue I don't know why some of this isn't funded from the money it brings in. That makes sense to me. I'm not saying don't put any in the reserve, but if, my question to, I guess, Mr. Johnson, I guess to Mr. Sluchenkov is, why can't some of this be funded from whence the money they make to justify the position and the work that they do? And it is very important. Well, I'm getting into the debate now. Question,
I get you
why
an
not take some of the revenue created to help pay for the position? Sir?
So my understanding as to this point in time, the contracts, this position has been on contract since 2014. So your question surrounding the proper terminology, technically you can also call it a temporary full-time position, has been managed and has been paid from the reserve up to this point. And so the position and in whatever component of the role requires it to sell property, that amount of money will continue to supplement that particular reserve with those sales proceeds. Sort of the point of the report and the recommendation in the presentation is that the scope of the position has grown quite dramatically from just the sales component. And the recommendation from staff is in line with where we feel more appropriately this position should be funded from, and that being from the tax levy. That does not take away from the fact that the continued sales will still be supplementing the funds into the reserve.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not suggesting that by changing or not paying for it out of the reserve that we're going to lose. I mean, some years are great and some years are not so great. It just seems to me the entire burden of taking this from something that has been self-sufficient. We certainly can have our cake and eat it too. We can certainly take some of the revenue that's created by providing this service in-house. To me, it seems like we just keep jacking up that tax levy and saying, well, yeah, but the benefits from this position, the benefits from the service we provide go into reserves. And I know that money in the bank will be used someday. This is just a simple question. Why aren't we continuing, even though we might be changing it from a temporary full-time position to permanent? It seems to me the service pays for itself here without going to the taxpayer's wallet.
Mr. Mayor, I think you made some good points.
Thank you.
I think maybe you could suggest that we change the motion a little bit, but not now, till I come back to you. Councillor Columbus first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We all know that a good amount of work has been done and that there's still lots to do. And I just wonder, to the county manager, if I could.
Sure.
We are in the process of hiring a lawyer, I believe. And would not some of this work fall into that category, like when you're talking about leases and selling property, purchasing property? Could that legal entity that we're going to hire not be able to help out with some of these tasks?
County manager, I'm sure, would be glad to answer that question.
We all anticipate an exceptionally close level of cooperation and enormous amount of interaction as between the new county solicitor and this unit, this business department with the corporation. That statement being said, there's a specific skill set offered by the individuals who are currently performing these, what I'll call realty services, which in a law would be replicated in a law firm, but would not be done by the lawyer himself or herself, would be done by a number of other professionals. So, no, the real estate lawyer would not do the things that are being done by the two individuals at the podium, for instance, but he would take that work product and then use it to fulfill other outcomes, or they'd form a team, and we wouldn't use the lawyer to do that work. Partially, and I say this sort of neutrally, but the lawyer's at a certain price point and salary point, and this position's at a different price point and salary point, and basic efficiency has the person who earns the least amount, who can do something well, should do that task.
Okay. We'd like to go now to Councillor Height, please. Okay, that was easy. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question was going to be as to why the report is coming to us at this point in time, although I guess I've just seen for myself, we approved a 2-year extension back in July of 2016,